Welcome back to My Real Estate Podcast with David Liberatore. I'm your host, and today we're diving into something that I think a lot of people are curious about, but maybe don't know how to navigate: the most expensive condo buildings here in Sarasota. David, thanks so much for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, this is a great topic because Sarasota's luxury condo market is really fascinating. We've got some incredible properties, and the buildings themselves tell a story about what buyers are actually looking for in this market.
I love that. So when you say the buildings tell a story, what do you mean by that? Like, what are the common threads you're seeing across these high-end properties?
Well, it's really about amenities and location. The most expensive buildings tend to be waterfront or have that coveted Gulf access. But beyond that, buyers are paying for lifestyle. We're talking resort-style pools, private beach access, concierge services, fitness centers, the whole package. And it's interesting because it ties into what we've been seeing with master plan communities across the country. People aren't just buying square footage anymore. They're buying into a lifestyle ecosystem.
Oh, wow. That's a really important distinction. So it's not just bigger is better. It's about what you get when you open your door every day. Are there specific neighborhoods or areas in Sarasota where these ultra-luxury buildings tend to cluster?
Absolutely. You've got your waterfront properties. Those are always premium. Siesta Key obviously is huge. But you're also seeing some really high-end developments popping up in areas with strong walkability and proximity to dining and culture. The price point really depends on what's driving value for that particular building. And here's the thing, when we're talking about these expensive properties, we also need to talk about how they're being sold. A lot of these luxury units move through private listings and off-market sales, which is something we've dug into before. Sotheby's International Realty has a huge presence here, and they're really the gatekeepers for a lot of these ultra-premium sales.
Right. So there's a whole different playbook for selling these high-end units compared to, say, a standard residential property. That's fascinating. When someone's looking at one of these buildings, what should they actually be evaluating? Like, beyond just the price tag?
Great question. First, you've got to understand the HOA structure and what's included. Some of these buildings have really robust reserve funds, and that matters. You also want to look at financing rules, and this has gotten more complicated lately with new condo financing requirements. We actually put together a whole guide on this because it affects sellers directly. If a building doesn't meet certain lending criteria, it can tank your buyer pool, which tanks your price. So that's crucial due diligence.
Oh man, yeah. I remember we talked about that. The financing piece is such a hidden gotcha for sellers. So if someone's sitting on a unit in one of these expensive buildings and they want to sell, what's the real strategy there?
You need to know your building's financials inside and out. You need to know whether it meets current lending standards. And honestly, at that price point, you're probably looking at a mix of cash buyers and finance buyers. Some people are going to pay all cash, some aren't. We've seen a real shift in how buyers are deciding between cash and financing on the Gulf Coast. And it's not always what people expect. Sometimes financing makes more sense, even if you have the cash.
That's such smart thinking. So you're really tailoring the approach based on the actual market dynamics, rather than just assuming everyone's got a checkbook ready. When it comes to pricing these units, because that's what everyone wants to know, what actually drives the value in these buildings?
It's a combination of things. Location, obviously, the building's reputation and amenities, but also, and this is huge, the actual unit itself, floor level, views, finishes, layout. And then there's the macro stuff. What's happening in Sarasota's real estate market overall? Interest rates, inventory levels. We've actually broken down what determines a Sarasota home's value in pretty granular detail, and a lot of those same principles apply to condos. It's not just this building sold for X, so yours is worth Y. It's much more nuanced.
No kidding. So it sounds like if you're either buying or selling in this space, you really need someone who knows the local market inside and out. You can't just look at comps and call it a day. This has been really enlightening, David. Before we wrap, is there anything about the luxury condo market in Sarasota that you think people get wrong?
I think people assume that luxury is just about price, but really it's about value. A $5 million condo that's in a building with structural issues and poor financing options is not a good investment, even if it looks amazing. And conversely, a $2 million unit in a well run building with strong amenities and good financing might be the smarter play. So do your homework, work with someone who understands both the buildings and the broader market, and don't just chase the headline number.
That's really solid advice. David, thanks so much for breaking this down. This has been super helpful, and I think our listeners are going to get a lot out of it. If people want to learn more or get in touch with you, where should they go?
Thanks for having me. They can always reach out through the usual channels, and we've got a bunch of resources on the site, everything from guides on condo financing to breakdowns of what's actually moving the market in Sarasota. Happy to help anyone who's thinking about buying or selling.
Perfect. Well, that's a wrap. Thanks again, David. And thanks to everyone listening to my real estate podcast with David Liberatore. We'll catch you next time.